So obviously we're here as Flyer, myself, Jimmy, and Charlie Kappa, Steve Vianest, and Richie May, rest in peace. So the whole beginning of Flyer was Cyndi was in a band called Doc West, which I think some of you have heard of. It was more or less a disco band. Cyndi was a background singer, and she was painted like a harlot, you know? That's just a fact, some people said it. And after a while, Cyndi obviously had enough. She wanted to get out, rock a little bit more. And Richie and I knew her. Of course, we were friends with Doc West. So the three of us got together and we said, okay, we're going to start a band. What are we going to do? Yada, yada, yada. The first thing was we talked about adding another player and getting some equipment. We had some people in mind. Cyndi did too, Charlie being one of them. And from there, I mentioned Jimmy Perini, and Richie said the same thing. And Cyndi, quite frankly, being in on the conversation, the three of us, the guys may help me out later on, but I think she had like a little mixer and needed a power amp. And we both said, we know Jimmy's got a power amp. So she was like, oh, yeah, we got to get him. He's in. And I've mentioned this before. So here comes Jimmy, you know. Now we got 4 neighborhood people that we know. Cyndi said she has a drummer. That drummer, again, she met Charlie Kappa on Long Island. So from there, the band evolved. We got together and everything. And we started on our quest to rock out and go for the better gigs, which we did eventually. And I feel we were in the trenches with Cyndi. She's got her glory days and everything. But when we were down in those trenches with her, it was a big learning curve for everybody, and especially Cyndi. Be it that, in reflection, she's like, oh, huh? Oh, I thought somebody said something. Who spoke while I'm speaking? So, to continue the story, we started getting together. And really, Cyndi took, I feel, her singing went leaps and bounds from Doc West. And with the inclusion of Jimmy has great ears, and he really, with that amp, he was very good with equipment. He was really good musically. So he was like the musical director of the band. Would you agree, Charlie?
Yeah.
Okay. So Jimmy deserves a lot of credit in that he took us to another level, even though we were young and we would butt heads and everything. But that's where we started. That was the first, the evolution of the band, goes on further. And with that, since you know how the core of us got together, what happened was Cyndi met Charlie out at, was it Chaucer's, Charlie?
Yeah,
You take it over, Charlie. Tell the story.
Yeah. That's where I met Cyndi, at Chaucer's Ale House in Oakdale, Long Island. And I can remember the first time I saw her, she absolutely floored me. I couldn't believe this girl was that good. Became friendly with her, gave her a tape, and told her I was interested in playing, doing the circuit. And if she ever wanted to start another band, she gave me a call. And basically, that's how I got involved with Cyndi. Gave her a couple of rides home to Queens, and we became friendly through that. Good experience.
Right. So, Jimmy, you want to say something at this point?
Sure. So they got together before I was there, And I was playing in a band. I had answered a ad in a Village Voice, and I was playing in a band. A Jamaican guy, older man, was organizing the band, and bass player was trying to take over the band, and the guy just came in one practice and disbanded the band. So I was out of work. I put word out, and Eddie and Richie approached me, and I said, sure, I'll give it a shot. When can I come down? And it sounded good. It sounded good from the beginning. We were all capable musicians. We all had a similar focus. We all came from a hard rock blues background, and we knew each other. I went to school with Richie and Ed, and Ed was Ed and Charlie jived together well. We sounded, really pretty solid from the beginning. We made some adjustments. I was a little, I was a bit opinionated. I came from music school, went to Queens College. And I knew a little bit about the fundamentals of music and, things we could do, adjustments to make things sound better. And Cyndi was dynamite, from the start. She was really hard worker. And it was, it was a good vibe. Richie was an excellent guitar player. We were one of the few bands that had two lead guitar players that you really didn't trade much off when one switched to the other. He had a bunch of people who really loved the way he played, and I had people who liked the way I played, and we complimented each other and took turns. We were just fair about it. And I thought we developed pretty quickly. We started working in a little storefront. We put old dirty carpets on the walls to deaden the sound, and we worked our asses off, accumulated some equipment. And even though I didn't know Cyndi, I mean, she was certainly up for the task of putting in the work and singing pretty much whatever we threw at her. We didn't change many keys for her. It was rudimentary in that sense. She was singing Bruce Springsteen songs in his keys, and then turning around and doing Janis Joplin and Jefferson Airplane sets. We tried to do medleys, doing Rod Stewart with the raunchy voice. I mean, she really put her vocal cords through the ringer. And at that time, we were playing, 3 or 4 sets a night. She was singing most of the songs, and we were breaking in with bands like Twisted Sister, and I don't know if you know Ray Squire, but established bands. It was tough to break in at first, but soon enough we were working, 5-6 nights a week and rehearsing any nights off. I mean, we really worked hard.
It was a lifestyle, really.
Yeah, we were young. We were in bars. We were meeting a lot of people. We were playing music. We had guys setting up for us and breaking down. It was we didn't make a lot of money, but we kept buying equipment, and we had a good time. Had a bunch of friends in various parts of the island or Queens where we would gig, and it was nice. We had a nice crowd.
So I'm going to say something. Right at that point, it was Richie and Cyndi were going out together. So Richie was sort of my best friend at that point, and the three of us would hang out a lot. And even aside from the band and knowing how Cyndi is, she was really a character. And one of the things we would do is she used to paint. And I really liked her painting, and she got me into it because she had a friend, I believe his name was Burrell, from where we rehearsed. He had a studio like 2 blocks away. So she goes, come on, we're going to go meet, my friend. And she takes me up to this artist loft, And next thing I know, we're going up there often, and we got the smocks on, and we're doing paintings, and it's like, we think we're, doing Picasso's and stuff, And I really liked it, and Cyndi really enjoyed it too. And it was really a great release, just being there. I was like Monet, and she thought she was Edith Piaf.
Was that Monet Monet?
Huh? Monet Monet. Yes. So right there, there are stories I'll tell later. But okay, so we got to the start and we're out gigging, and we're out on Long Island, as Jimmy mentioned. And that's where Steve comes into the picture, right, Steve?
Well, I came in a little before that, actually. I met Cyndi when she was with Doc West, and she was playing in a in Massapequa, Long Island, called Solomon Grundy's Frigate, and she did a Janis Joplin set that was unbelievable. And then she came back on and did the Kiki D song, "I've Got the Music." And there's that one note at the end of the song that it's just nobody hits the note, but she hit it perfectly. So after the band went off, I went up to her and I said, "Hey, what's going on?" I said, "That was really sensational." I said, "You got any fans?" She goes, "Nope." I said, "Well, you do now." So I became her first fan, excuse me. And I said, "Where else do you play?" So she says, "Well, next," and I remember it was a Tuesday night. I don't know why I remember that. She's playing at some biker bar with Doc West in Babylon, Long Island. I walked in there by myself and it was a little scary. I'm like, "Are you kidding that you're playing in a place like this?" And she's like, "Well, this is what it was." And, she did the whole Doc West thing. And, as Ed said, and the guy said, that ended. And, we still were very good friends. And she said, "We're starting this band Flyer and, you're going to like it." And at that point, I started hanging out with them. I brought some of my friends down. Two of my friends married. One married Eddie and one married Jimmy. They were my friends from Long Island, from Hicksville, Long Island, and they both married these girls. But I've got a lot of Cyndi stories, but I'll let the guys talk because this is not just about me and Cyndi, it's about the band.
Well, Steve, Missy is on here. You're a good friend and my wife. So let's hear a little from Missy for a minute if she wants to talk, all right?
Okay.
Missy, you got to unmute your mic.
On it.
Down at the bottom left corner.
I had to work on it. I had to find it.
Okay.
Hey, Miss.
It only took me 10 minutes to get the computer to come on.
Okay. Time for a new laptop.
Nah, I'll keep this one for a while. I lose all my stuff. I don't know what you want me to say.
Well, what about all the stuff with you and Steve? And Steve mentioned that he was the matchmaker, sort of. He had the harem. Steve would come around, and he had all these chicks, excuse me, women from the island. And we were like, we're going, what is this guy doing? He's like leader of the pack of a harem. And all of the women are really good looking. And Steve's flying his colors and everything, right, Steve? And I'm going, what is he doing,
Yeah, well, obviously you liked it.
Yeah,
How many years you married? How many years you married, Ed?
Yep.
It'll be 40 years.
Wow.
Well, Missy, you have anything to say about first seeing Cyndi?
Well, Linda and I worked together also, even though we went to school together. But we were working together.
Who's Linda?
Linda?
Jimmy's wife?
Yeah.
Okay.
And after work, we didn't have anything to do. We were like, what do you want to do? And I was like, Steve wants us to see this band that he was talking about. It was me, Linda, and Kathy Wilson.
Oh,
And we were driving up and down Hempstead Turnpike saying, what are we going to do? Because that's what you do in the area, to drive up and down the turnpike deciding what you're going to do. And we went to Sutter's Mill. And that's how we met you. We went in there
Okay.
because Steve said to come down. Come and see this band. And they were really good. The bass player was really cute too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, tell
you
them how
know-
handsome we were 40 years ago, Missy.
But
Tell
What'd you
them
say,
how
Jimmy?
handsome we were 40 years ago.
you guys are all good looking. You're still good looking guys.
Thanks, miss. I don't know about Jimmy.
Jimmy's good looking still.
Yeah, he's a good looking dude. So, talking about looking, Charlie, do you mind if I just mention your cousin?
No, not at all. Go ahead.
Tell a story. So one of the things in going about all these gigs is you have to entertain yourself. And Cyndi could be really entertaining, which we'll get to. And Charlie had a few good stories for us too. You know, we were all pretty good talkers from being in bands. So Charlie could tell you who his cousin was and some of the stories he'd tell us when he'd come into the island. Go ahead, Charles.
Well, my cousin is Martin Scorsese. So that's my claim to fame other than Cyndi. But one point I'd like to add is we, aside from playing, I, at the time, rented a cottage out in Great River, Long Island, which is just the other side of Oakdale. And if you guys remember back, even Steve and the girls, we had some great parties out there. And Cyndi would be there with her little dog, Sparkle. And just a lot of good memories. Does everybody remember them?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cottage parties?
And we were all very good friends. We were good
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of good times.
Yeah.
We almost
Cyndi
burnt
was-
that tree down with that fireworks. We ran up.
Yeah, Cyndi was a lot of fun, but you know, I'd like to bring a point that Jimmy touched on. Back in the days with doing the club circuit, it was a tough road, and when you consider the fact that Cyndi covered basically 90% of all male vocalists, he did like an incredible job. I mean, doing Rod Stewart songs. Incredible. I got to hand it to him. It was very, very tough work. 4 sets was expected of you, and it was tough. It was a lot of work. Everyone could attest to that.
You know, and I know that the people who know her from later years, with more of her '80s pop music. I mean, she was a rocker back then. She had the fishnet stockings, black hot pants, jag haircut, prancing around like Mick Jagger, covering everything from Stewart to Zeppelin to, Airplane. She really, when we came off the stage, we were all drenched in sweat, and everyone really worked hard, and especially her. She was, an entertainer that no matter how many people showed up, she was going to, work her heart out. And that's one thing that I always felt, set her apart from the rest of us. And I can only speak for myself, but if I show up at a club on a Thursday night and there are 6 people in there, I'm going to go through the motions, play the songs, and, get out of there as soon as I can. We had one gig, she performed like we were in Madison Square Garden, and there were like 3 people there. It happened to be Lou Albano's bar upstate New York. And I was just, I was blown away, really, more so than a gig with, hundreds of people. Everybody gets pumped up for that. This is like 3 or 4 people, and she's performing like, we're at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, and sometimes, Cyndi's memory from back in the day is short. So, she said, "Oh, I met Lou Albano on a plane." That's not true. She first met Lou Albano in Flyer at his club called the Briar Patches, I mentioned to Joe and everybody previously. And we would hang out, and instead of, enjoying the gig, we enjoyed more hearing the war stories from Lou Albano,
Right.
So, you know, it is what it is. But, you know, what Jimmy was talking about is putting her heart up and doing all the songs and the male vocals and everything. But Cyndi did blow herself out, and she did resent the band in that when it first happened, she'd be like, "Oh, you know, fly, blah, 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 blah," to the point where I kept communicating with her more than the other guys. And she would do an interview for Rolling Stone. She would be on MTV, just did a little bit. And she'd call me up and she'd go, "Ed, don't take it the wrong way. You know, journalists can misquote you and everything. So it might come out looking bad for Flyer and you guys." I was used to it. It happened a few times. Finally, when she had a lot of success, and I heard one more time, one thing, you know, got my Brooklyn up, and I said, via email, I said, "Did you ever think about karma? If you didn't take the steps with us in the trenches, and you didn't play in Flyer and blow your voice out, and Flyer just dissolved, she might be a singer in Queens singing karaoke at the bar up the corner." So really, I really look at it as karma, that she found Katie Agresta and learned how to sing, and then went on to her glory days. And I said that to her, and after that, I stopped getting things about, "Oh, you know, I was misquoted."
And can I say something about those days?
Sure, Steve, I was going to just hand it over to you.
Yeah, the night that Cyndi blew out a voice, I forget the club the guys were playing in, but it was on Long Island. And she came off the set and she had no voice. And she goes, "I want to go to the hospital." And I'm like, "Well, okay." So the band decided they were going to finish the night without her. I wasn't there. I rushed Cyndi to the hospital, driving recklessly across the Long Island, going to Central General Hospital in Plainview, I believe it was. When the guys finished the night, they all came to the hospital, obviously. I think Cyndi was in the hospital for just 1 or 2 days, but then she went back to where she lived in Woodhaven, Ed, I think. Was that Woodhaven?
Yeah.
Correct, Woodhaven.
Okay, but she couldn't talk. The whole thing with losing her voice, she wasn't allowed to talk at all for a period of time. I don't remember what that was. So if you would call Cyndi on the phone, you could talk to her and you would ask her a question and she would knock in the phone. Like, that was her answer. She couldn't talk, but I would go and visit her in Woodhaven. And as Ed said, you know, she found Katie Agresta. Katie taught her how to sing the right way. I mean, I did a lot of shows with Cyndi afterwards when she was with, you know, her own solo thing. We were in MGM Grand in Vegas, and she was doing Divas Live. And she did a whole bunch of songs with Debbie Harry, Joss Stone. But the thing I remember about that the most with Cyndi with her voice is that's when Jessica Simpson was just coming out, and she was doing something in rehearsal, and it was Cyndi, myself, I love this one, Patti LaBelle, and Jessica Simpson on the side of the stage talking. And Patti LaBelle said something to Jessica Simpson about, you know, her voice and stuff. So Cyndi said, "Do me a favor, go back into my dressing room and get me some balloons." And that's how Cyndi warmed up her voice. She would take balloons and blow in and out on the balloons. And we gave Jessica Simpson the balloons. And what happened is she turned around, threw the balloons on the floor and said, "I don't need these." Well, that wasn't a very good thing. Obviously, Cyndi has a major career, has had a major career in singing, and she knows what she did. And Katie Agresta really was her savior. And
Yeah,
Cyndi listened
absolutely.
to her. And, you know, before each gig, I mean, some of the exercises that we saw, all of us, you just like, what are you doing? But that's how she warmed up her voice. And that's how she has the voice she has now. I mean, nobody has that voice.
Yeah, I would just take Cindy's side of that argument, except that, you know, it certainly wasn't an intentional thing on our part. You know, we were all young. She wasn't taking care of her voice in the beginning. We were playing hard rock. We were playing really loud. The nature of that Long Island circuit was such that you were playing 3 or 4 sets. There was a night, and we were playing as much as we could. We didn't pace ourselves. We didn't try to work 3 nights a week. We tried to work 6 nights a week. We were paying off equipment and things like that. There wasn't a lot of consideration given to how much Cyndi was using her voice and abusing. She would do the raspy vocals. Obviously not good. We were not overly selective. We were just trying to be successful. And it never occurred to us really that she was going to blow out her voice. When that lawyer approached the band with a deal, to me, it didn't seem like a very good deal because he wasn't an established music lawyer and didn't have great connections. But, Cyndi was in a different spot. She was having, difficulties with her body. And it's like a guitar player that has arthritis in his hands. I mean, you want to make moves that help you survive, never resented her for taking that offer and moving on. It was in her best interest. And quite frankly, at the time, we had Ellen Shaw and it seemed like, we could just move on. The guys were all tight. Didn't work out that way, but that at the time it wasn't a smooth ride for Cyndi either.
I want to add something to that, if I may. Jimmy said, the clubs and stuff that the guys played on Long Island. Some of these clubs, you thought it was all fame and glory, but I remember some of the dressing rooms, or call them dressing rooms. There was one club that you guys played in, and the dressing room was in an old freezer. I can't remember what club that was. Some wooden ships. Well, I don't remember why I remember that. But Cyndi's dressing room, well, of course you all shared a dressing room. It's not like you all, had your own, fancy dressing rooms. But the dressing room was in an old freezer. Sometimes you had to change the clothes in a kitchen of a place. I mean, so it was not all fame and glory.
That's called paying your dues, Steve. Cyndi paid her dues.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
I'd like to say the one thing you could tell so far is Cyndi was driven, yes, and she's a extremist. So the thing was going to the, maybe a little too far with the style of singing. But we also had another thing where her mom was running a vitamin shop, and Cyndi got into vitamins. So what does she do? She starts taking vitamins by the handful instead of really checking out what they do for your body. And remember this, guys? We're singing, she's singing on stage, we're doing our thing, and all of a sudden, boom, Cyndi goes down to the floor. So it's like, holy shit, what happened? We stopped a little bit. At that point, it was like you had to do the gig no matter what, or the agent that we had was sort of happening and could get us into the bigger rooms. So we had to figure out what we were going to do because, again, Cyndi went to the hospital and I forget who took her there. But the diagnosis was vitaminosis. She took so many vitamins that her body didn't have to make any and started shutting down. So, anything Cyndi did, there was an element of extremist to it, just like her hair color, you guys agree on that? Other things.
It was intense. It was always intense.
Yeah. So, that was definitely a part of Cyndi's makeup, So
there was also a lot of clubs that that you guys played that we had to stay overnight in hotels and stuff. I remember OBI out in the Hamptons, and we, nobody had a lot of money in those days, so we couldn't afford to stay in a hotel in the Hamptons. So we drove all the way back to a little motor inn in Shirley, Long Island. God.
I remember, I
Oh my
remember
God. Shirley, Long Island. I mean, I think the room was like $20 a night, but all of us. And I think we got like 10 rooms because a bunch of my friends came and everybody's friends came. And it was just, you know what? Again, other than playing, everybody was friends. We had the greatest time just hanging out in this dive of a hotel.
We also played to 3,000 people at that OBI.
Yeah.
And I was the light man, God help. And I remember turning off the light on Cyndi one night and she's like, well, why do I have no lights? I said, well, you're not singing. But I remember one night there that she was playing, you guys were playing with Lady Man and Baby, I think the name of the band was. And they were big. And they brought in a lot of people. But whatever it was that night, it was like 5 people in OBI in the Hamptons. And that was never the case. And Baby refused to get on stage, so they didn't pay them. But Cindy's like, no, and said she would play in front of 3 or 4 people. Right. And I took a folding chair, put it in the middle of the floor, and I sat there and I watched all night. And I had my own concert. It was amazing. But she always gave it her all.
Yeah. Do we remember the DJ there? Kathy. Anybody remember her last name?
I remember opening for Herman's Hermits.
Yeah.
Right.
We opened at that place also with a big crowd for Herman's Hermits. But what I was getting around to, Jimmy, is Kathy liked Cyndi, she was the DJ. So when we would play, she had control of the DJ booth. So she would get the ending applause from Led Zeppelin. And when the people were clapping for us, she'd pump the Led Zeppelin applause in. So it sounded like, a house on fire. We were doing great, So good times.
Jimmy, it's funny that you said the Hermits thing, because I remember, can't remember who the lead singer of Hermits is. Is it Hermit? But I remember him lecturing. Okay, I remember him lecturing Cyndi on how to sing, and she wanted no part of that at all. It was really, that was so funny. I still remember how she's like, okay, I'm not listening to him.
He was very a Korean musician.
Peter Noon's still playing the same 14 songs on Cruise.
Okay, so I want to ask, Charlie, you have anything to say?
No, other than clubs that we played, I got to admit the OBIs were a good gig. Big room, usually always people there. That was a lot of fun. And then I think one of the other clubs that I really enjoyed playing was Beggar's Opera in, I guess that was Queens, right? Yeah. Another good club, big stage. And again, Cyndi was a trooper. She was a trooper.
And then when we got with the Better Agent, really, we went up to Connecticut. We started traveling into Pennsylvania.
Also, for the fans that know her, after the 80s, Flyer had a lot of success playing in like biker type bars or Amityville. When we started to travel up to like semi-college towns in Connecticut, the girls were really kind of turned off against Cyndi because she came off like super hard. She worked her ass off and she was just, a balls out rocker, and they didn't know what to make of her. So we did have, more success in like some of the seedier clubs in Long Island than, the college type towns. She went through quite a transformation from when she played with us, but I think Ed's right. She really cut her teeth with what we were doing. She just, we overworked her. She overworked herself. The nature of the gigs in that period were a lot of sets, a lot of nights a week. And most of the singers were male singers. So I don't know.
Yeah. Jimmy, guys, would you agree? unfortunately, Cyndi did take us to a certain level and she blew her voice out. But we, Richie and I and Jimmy, sometimes we'd go see them, with Blue Angel and hang out at their loft in the music building in New York City. But they were having a hard time. Look, Cyndi even said their album went lead. Everybody's heard that, right? But, she put us on the road where the singer that took her place, we actually did do better with a happening agent and start playing bigger rooms that Cyndi would have liked. But again, it is what it is. She went on a different path, and we started earning money, Jimmy, later on, finally, with the bigger gigs. So that was a good thing. Where Blue Angel was piss poor, and me and Richie would go there and sometimes buy him booze and heroes and stuff, or Cyndi, So then she,
unfortunately, Blue Angel was before its time. I mean, that's when Brian Setzer was doing his thing, and that album, the Blue Angel album, was sensational. I think that was before its time. I think if that was released after Cyndi went solo, it really would have gone somewhere, because the songs on that album, and like when she sings "I'm Gonna Be Strong," it's sensational.
And not only that,
and they were a good live band too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just recently emailing Cyndi, and I was checking, Arthur Nelson was in Blue Angel.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew him as a rockabilly guitarist, and then I know of him from being Shamika Copeland's longtime guitarist. And I was saying how great he is, And Cyndi
it's some good
agreed.
people.
And Cyndi said he's a good guy. Unlike some other people, I don't know. She had an attitude. I don't know.
No, she had some good people. She had a horn player in the band, Torrey. I can't think of his first name.
John Torrey.
John Torrey. He was sensational. I mean, there was some good people in the band, but again, it didn't happen. As you said, the album went lead, and it really shouldn't have, because it was great.
Steve, don't say John Torrey's sensational, and I'll tell you why.
I thought he.
At Beggar's Opera, Cyndi, Richie, and I went out to a dinner afterwards, and John Torrey came in with his manager, who was the guy that eventually Steve Mazzarski had to pay to buy his contract out. But we're hanging out, and I wasn't sure if Cyndi, guys, was singing in the band at the time, or she must have just come down with Richie. But John Torrey starts talking about, why don't you come check out our band? Because she wanted to do originals. Yeah. So that caught her eye. And John Torrey was saying all this stuff, and the manager was like, I could take you here, all the bullshit stuff you normally get, And me and Richie are looking at each other going, these guys got a pair of balls. We're Cyndi's bandmates. We're right here. And they're talking and trying to pull our singer out. We didn't know if Cyndi was going to come back. So, I sort of had an attitude then about him.
Yeah.
And I'm being honest.
You're right. There's a place, and he did it in the wrong place. But,
you know what?
Put her on the road.
He pulled Cyndi. Cyndi went on to better things. And that was about it. Blue Angel, right?
I mean, we had nobody in our band writing original music. There was only so far we could go, but we were starting to make some money over and above paying for our equipment, and we were caught up in that circuit, and it was a lot of fun. There were a lot of people there, but career-wise, I mean, you're not going to go anywhere playing Led Zeppelin songs. At best, as a guitar player, you hope that somebody comes in and plucks you out for a band that has an original repertoire and needs a replacement. As a singer, you're just going to wear your voice down year after year until you make that move. I mean, I sat down and we attempted to write some songs, Cyndi and I, a couple of times. It really, nothing came out of it, as far as I'm concerned. You know, it wasn't like somebody was coming down to rehearsal. Hey, I have some new ideas. Let's try this. Let's, you know, we were concerned with learning, you know, cover tunes to get us working solid and regularly. And we were, you know, we were pretty good at that. But as far as a career, no.
But, you know, being there and watching it happen, I have to say, and maybe you guys will admit it, we were really cruel to Cyndi because we felt we were musicians. The band was starting to happen. She really didn't play guitar in front of us. And I remember her saying, definitely, let's write some songs on one of the gigs that were far away and we were staying over. And we laughed at her. You know, she was trying to show the song and it was like, you're going to write a fucking song. Excuse my French. Yeah, right. Okay. And that stuck with Cyndi, you know? It's not when you're nice to people sometimes, it's when you have something go against the grain that stays in your mind, you know? And I think that.
And she's a fabulous songwriter.
She evolved into one, but again, the kind of band we were in, we drank a lot, we made fun of each other, but I saw watching it happen, that really hurt it. So I don't know if you guys
I gotta
remember
say,
that.
I sat down with her at the piano and I had the guitar. We were down my basement. You know, it was only a couple of days, but at that time, you know, in her career, you know, I had like the musical knowledge to put some chords together, but it wasn't like, maybe we just weren't jiving. I just didn't seem like we were producing anything. You know, again, it was very early stages and she didn't have the musical background, but she could, you know, sure sing a melody, and it didn't seem like we were really coming up with anything. I mean, you know, it was like, I heard this podcast about Tom Petty's keyboard player, and he was talking about how, you know, Tom Petty was a skinny little kid that would show up to practice and he just would blow everybody away with his songs, and they'd be singing these things for the next 2 weeks, and then he'd come down with something else. I mean, it wasn't like that kind of thing where somebody had that innate songwriting gift and you know, we just followed along with it. But obviously, you know, she developed those skills in later years, and I don't know if, you know, they brought people in to help her or that was just her inspiration, but whatever, it worked. And you know, you can call her music commercial. It wasn't really coming from, you know, the hard rock sound that we had, but it was certainly very popular, and I give her credit.
Yep.
Hey, I'd like to bring up a point to what Eddie said. I remember that incident about doing original music and writing. It was at the Turtle Inn upstate in skiing country.
Totally agree. I was just going to say that, Charlie.
And you know something, till this day, I think about that and I felt so bad because like we really hurt the girl's feelings. We really did. I think thinking back in those days, we probably drank a little bit too much and joked around a little bit too much. But it was in lieu of a situation where you tried to lighten things up because it was a lot of hard work. But I do remember that incident, and I felt bad because I think we really hurt the girl's feelings.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yes,
So-
Turtle Inn upstate.
Yeah. Joe, do you have anywhere you want to go? Keep going with the stories, or?
Well, I know some people have some questions, and I know we're going to wait till the end, but you did mention that you might play more music.
Yeah. Can I do one thing? Can I ask a friend of his opinions what it was?
Of course.
Okay. Joe, would you want to say something about Cyndi? Joe's a good friend.
Joe, you have to unmute your mic.
Bottom left hand corner, Joe. Click on the bottom left. You'll see a black border.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Right, there you go. Hey,
Can you
Joe.
hear me? Okay. Yeah, I had a few things that I thought of as everybody was talking. First off, I wanted to remind you guys about going to Princeton.
Sure, those were great gigs. We used to play
Okay.
Princeton University.
You know, yeah, exactly. I mean, that alone was like a 4-year education.
Yeah.
We go into the place, and everybody there looks like Sheldon from the
Right.
TV show, right? They got pocket protectors, they got 4 and 5 pencils in their pocket, the whole thing, right? So you guys roll in your equipment, you set up, and they had a nice room. It wasn't a huge room, but it was a nice sized room, and the place was built like a freaking castle. So what happens is these guys start going, the beer starts flowing. They had kegs like lined up on the wall. And by the time you guys were done, there was like 1-2 inches of beer on the floor. The place was incredible.
Yeah.
I was very impressed by that gig.
Green
My first-
carpet, baby grand piano up in the foyer.
The first time I saw you guys play was because I was walking. I guess I was walking down the stairs at the Cypress Hill station, coming home from work, and Eddie was walking up, and he says, "Oh, Joe, by the way, come to the Glendale Lounge." Right? Remember the Glendale Lounge, Jimmy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
First
So-
gig.
Right. So I went, and what the great thing about it was that my first cousin Peter was there because he lived right in Glendale. He needed something to do, and that's where he would go. And anyway, we got to see you guys play, and I was blown away. And I'll never forget how she was dressed. She had the fishnets on, the short, shiny black hot pants, and you know, she killed it. One thing I want to talk about is when she moved to 77th Street. She calls me up and she says, "Hey Joe, I need some help. I gotta build a loft bed." And she had the 2 guys that lived, I guess, in the apartment below her that she became friendly with. There was Gregory and another guy. You remember those 2 guys?
Yeah,
You remember them, right,
Yeah.
Steve? So
yeah. I
so
can't.
anyway,
Gregory and the other guy, I can't remember their names.
exactly. So you know what I'm talking about. So what happens is I'm driving my 1971 Chevy Chevelle. We go through her mother. We go to a lumberyard in Queens, and we pick up the lumberyard. At the lumberyard, we pick up the lumber so she can build a loft bed. And we put all the lumber on top of my car. I guess I must have had like some kind of blanket or something up there. Tie it all up, and we're driving over the 59th Street Bridge, and it's snowing. Needless to say, there was no incident. We got there okay. We got the lumber up to our apartment, and those guys built her a loft bed because she had a studio apartment. There was no room, and she needed a place to sleep. And sort of in closing, I want to say that going back to what Jimmy was saying, it seems that Cyndi, at the beginning of her career, she did work with those guys from Philly on some writing songs and stuff like that. So I think that we're all aware of what happened with Lennon and McCartney, but you know, it wasn't that kind of deal where, you know, you guys were working together for a long time and got to know each other. And recently I heard one situation where Lennon and McCartney wrote a song and they said, nah, it's not a Beatles song. Give it to one of the other people in the crew at that time. And another band made a hit out of it. But you know, they were very, very deliberate in what they were doing. Just in passing.
Well, did you hear the first rough demo of Girls Just Want to Have Fun? It was very raw, even with them working on it. Right, Han?
Right. Yeah.
So you could see even with Mark Chertoff's group, it took a little bit of an evolution in the songwriting to get from point A to a hit, you know? But there was
I wanted to say something. A lot of people over the years have said to me, you know, you hung out with the band, there must have been a lot of drugs and alcohol and all that. I have to say, there was never, ever any drugs with Flyer. I mean, I don't know what happened down the road. I'm sure it's, you know, but there was never any drugs. I can't say we didn't drink a lot. We drank a lot. There was a club that we played, that you guys played in Connecticut on a Sunday night, and they had 10-cent drink nights. And Eddie will remember this.
Alabama Slammers.
Okay, yeah. I would pick up Richie and I'd pick up Eddie in my little car. We'd go up to these clubs and we'd have, obviously, alcohol in the car going to the club. So by the time we got to the club, we were smashed. And then you have 10-cent drinks. So for $1, you got 10 drinks. Obviously, it was not top shelf alcohol. But thank God, God was with us. No one was ever in an accident. No one ever got a DWI. Nobody got arrested. But did we drink? Yes, we drank a lot, but there were never any drugs. So I've heard people say, oh, you know, Cyndi Lauper took a lot of drugs on her way up. Absolutely not true.
You know, we worked so hard with those stupid Fresnel lights. They're so freaking hot. I mean, it was like I was dipped in the pool, and I know Cyndi was the same way. Richie had like an odd thing about his body. He just didn't sweat naturally. And he'd get a little water on his upper lip, but everybody else was drenched.
Yeah.
I mean, it was you know, especially Cyndi. I mean, she was dancing around the whole time. It was like a Jagger-esque type of show. and I mean,
you have to understand what Jimmy's talking about is we got to a point where, you know, we wanted to take each step to not being redundant, but we had, like, if you went into a club, we were like a touring band. We had the light racks with the big lights. We had monitor guys watching her monitor mix. We had a huge PA. We had our own truck. So this wasn't like a little band in a van, you know? So, you know, that was the thing, and you'd sweat your balls off, you know? It was really, really tough at times.
There was one night that I think either Eddie or Richie called me up and said, we have a problem. The truck driver's name was Kenny. And they were playing, and I think it was one of these colleges they were playing, and they said, well, Kenny can't drive the truck today. Can you do us a favor and drive the truck to this college or wherever the hell it was? I'm like, well, I've never driven a truck before. I live on Long Island. I have a little car. But Steve was a trooper. So Steve went to Kenny's house, picked up the truck. Somehow, without hitting anything or getting it there, we got it up there, and it just, I'll never forget just driving this ridiculously huge truck. And yeah, the equipment, wow, there was a lot of it.
Yeah.
Well, talk about drugs. Kenny Wallington used to drop a tab of acid, get his boombox out, and play bootleg Grateful Dead tapes while he cleaned up all the equipment.
Yeah, he was a deadhead.
And then drove the truck.
Yeah.
But that's what I said. Thank God no one ever got hurt. There was never a DWI.
Amazing. Amazing.
God was with us.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was also with Flyer. We really had a lot of fun going to CBGBs and doing gigs, which we would play Trudy Heller's, which turned into a gay bar, and they loved us. So, and they loved Cyndi, and that was really
one of the first. Ed, that was one of the first gay bars in the city, Trudy Heller's.
right. So from there, we made a lot of friends, and we had great fun because we'd hang out afterwards, and
Chinatown, Wohop.
then we'd go to Wohops,
Wohop.
eat Chinese food, and
At 5 in the morning.
right. Or, you know, I was just talking to Joe. Steve, do you remember this? Maybe the guys won't. But from hanging out with everybody, we went to the Paradise Garage. Remember that place? It's where, what was her name? Gloria or something? Oh, I forget her name. The black woman with the short hair, the singer. She was married to Stallone.
It's not ringing a bell.
She was very popular then. She was singing. But does anybody remember the Paradise Garage?
No,
Huh?
I
No,
don't.
Oh, well.
But what did you guys do? You were playing so many nights a week. When you had a rehearsal hall in
Grace
Freeport, Long
Jones.
Island.
It was
Yeah,
Grace
and-
Jones.
Oh, right. Oh, my God, right. Oh, yes. But,
Okay, Steve, you,
I do remember.
Yeah.
But you guys would practice in Freeport, Long Island, in this crazy place. And
Right.
then what did we, after rehearsal, we always went to go see a band. It was Thursday night at Speaks to see Twisted
yeah,
Sister,
there's plenty of
or
bands.
Monday night at Right Track In to see Little Buster. But I mean, you guys were always checking out other musicians, getting ideas and stuff from that too, which was fantastic.
Yeah, Eddie, I want to also recognize Freddie because
Yeah,
very recently, one of the guys who worked with you guys passed away, and that was
Right.
real sad.
yeah.
So
And
I
you
don't
also-
know. I don't know if all the guys remember that.
He also wrote it for Blue Angel, Joe.
Yeah, I don't know if Jimmy and Charlie, knew about this, but
No, I didn't
guy
know.
Freddie passed just like about 2 weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Not getting any
He
younger,
got us
guys.
some good gear, right, Jimmy? Remember that?
Yeah.
But the thing with Freddie is his cousin got in touch with me just around the time of the funeral or thereafter, and she was saying Freddie was younger than us, and from Cyndi being in the neighborhood, she actually babysat Fred. So,
He
Yeah.
he lived across the street from Cindy's mother's house.
right.
Wow.
So, I mean, stories like this, we could go on and on. You know, we got a whole ton of them.
Yeah. Endless stories.
Yeah. Steve was there when Cyndi made it, went around and, didn't work for her. He's got a lot of stories. Where would
That's
you
a
like
whole
to go
different
from here? Joe, you were saying you want to hear some more music, or?
Yeah,
Questions?
why don't we either play another song or ask questions, whatever you want to do. I know people are dying to ask questions, so we could just jump into that.
All right, what do people want to do? Hear music, raise your hand, or ask questions?
All right, well, you got to ask one or the other. So why don't you ask who wants to hear some music? Who wants to hear music first? Okay. And who wants to ask questions? All right, so we're going to play some music first.
Okay. Let's see what I got here. So.
Did you have any of the Led Zeppelin stuff? Because that's when she really wailed.
Well, in talking to Joe previously, Steve, a lot of people heard that at different times.
Okay.
What happened?
Better watch it.
Do you
Double
guys just
guitar
want to
lead.
hear what?
Double guitar lead.
Sounded good. I know when I played music previously, a lot of you probably wanted to say how awesome the rhythm section was with me and Charlie. But you can tell us later, all right?
Show of hands.
So it could be really long.
And don't be modest. You sang a couple car songs. Charlie sang some songs, and you all were very good. So don't be so modest because you did
Thank
the
you,
cause
Steve.
very well.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Steve.